Now welcoming on the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, a very special guest. I think a lot of the listeners and viewers have been long awaiting the return of Mr. Kraft to the show. Yes, Kevin Kraft, Master Club Fitter from the Columbia store, 3-time U.S. Senior Open qualifier.
Ooh,
that sounds kind of cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, 2-time Pennsylvania State Open champion.
Correct.
Pennsylvania Senior Open champion.
Correct.
How do you want me to keep going? Or
I mean, did you ever see the clip of Tiger being announced when he's playing with Phil?
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Phil's
it's
like, all right,
yeah,
we get it.
It's nice to see those guys have that kind of banter and.
Did you see there was also one? I think it might have been also at the Hero with JT and Tiger. Where JT was paired with Tiger, and they gave all the accomplishments for Tiger, and then JT must have given him some crap, and so then the next day they were still paired together, and it went down to Mr. Kentucky, 2011 golfer, whatever.
Yeah.
For JT. So,
awesome.
So yeah, we could go through all the credentials, but we won't.
Yeah,
the people know by now who you are.
Yeah.
Especially since we've spent another couple minutes on this intro versus what I expected to spend on it. But so today what we're doing, since it is, as of this recording, we're a month into roughly 2025, and we have a good grasp on what's new out there. We are going to get your early nominees for your favorite clubs or best clubs of the year. We're going to go by category.
Okay.
But before we do that, we're going to look back on what you did a year ago, because a year ago we did the same thing.
Yeah.
We had you in roughly the same time year. I don't think it was this early, but I think we definitely talked to you about your favorite products by category, and you gave some answers, and I have the list right here in front of me.
Let's see how well this held up.
And again, obviously we understand that you had a whole 10, 11 months after that to fit and gain information on the products.
Yeah.
But do you have any, I guess, no, we're going to jump right into driver.
Okay.
So the driver that you selected last year, and this, by the way, you can search this on, through our platforms on YouTube. Kevin's, best clubs of 2024 as of basically a year ago. So this is right after things were launched. But the 10K, the Ping G430 Max 10K driver was your choice in the driver category. Would you make any changes to that now? Or would there be another maybe option that you would, that rivals the 10K?
I mean, the 10K was and remains a extremely good driver.
Yeah.
What we saw early on in the release was that spin rates were a bit lower than what we were maybe projecting for a 10K model.
Yeah.
Right. There's always been this thought that if you have forgiveness, you can't have distance and good spin control and all that too. Well, Ping's done a pretty darn good job of kind of dispelling that myth.
Yeah.
So 10K was a very good driver. I think I still probably sold more G430 LSTs than anything else. Well, a lot of people need help with spin, and the LST still gives you a lot of forgiveness in that low spin package. And you got adjustable weights, you've got the whole package. So as for new 2024 launch 10K, I would probably stand by it.
Yeah. That's right, because the LST technically was a 2023.
Yeah. As
launch.
Overall, I think the LST probably still beats it in overall performance.
Okay. But still sounds like Ping is kind of the had the top two models, I guess, for you last year in terms of fitting players.
Yeah. I mean, Ping just does such a great job with their stuff and with forgiveness that there's hardly anybody that couldn't potentially get into a Ping product.
Yeah. So I want to move on now to the Fairway Woods, because it's actually I'm fascinated that you chose this at the time. So QI10 was your Fairway Wood choice, and as we went on through the 2024 year, a lot of tour players, both on TaylorMade staff and otherwise, played a QI10 Fairway Wood and won tournaments, and it was a it was a big year for the QI10 Fairway wood. So you were right on. You nailed it with your call in that regard. Do you? I mean, I guess do you stand by the QI10 as your choice? Did anything else emerge as a big contender?
Not really so much last year. Fairway woods is a tough category, man. They tend to always be pretty darn good, and across the board, with some different performance characteristics. Luckily with TaylorMade, you got the Max, you've got their standard, and you got their Tour. So you've got 3 different heads you can work with there. But yeah, I mean, it was really good fairway wood. So
no, it was.
I'm okay with that as my choice.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. We're just again, we understand that this was basically a year ago when you made these calls, and you've been now fitting with all these things for months and months afterwards.
Yeah.
And there's also been some new products. If we talk about, say the Titleist GT family is now out there. So, things can change, and we would not blame you if things did change. But so irons now. At the time we did 2 categories. We did kind of a game improvement, and we did a players. I'm going to open this up to really anything, right? If there's a player's distance mile or anything you want to throw in, knowing what you know now about the 2024 sort of options. But the Cleveland Zipcore XL irons were the iron of your choice a year ago. I remember you had kind of some rave reviews about the product right away.
Yeah.
Some really good reviews and how it looked, how it performed. I'm wondering if enough people were looking for that iron throughout the year just because of the brand notoriety piece.
Probably not, honestly.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a acoustic component to that iron that might have potentially been a little off-putting for some people. It was loud.
Yeah.
It ended up being a very loud golf club, at least indoors.
Yeah.
Might not have been so bad outdoors, but from a financial standpoint, it was a little less expensive.
Yeah, that was another piece of the puzzle that you mentioned. I remember when you kind of chose this iron. Now, is there anything you would choose now for, say, a game improvement iron from last year?
Mizuno.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wholeheartedly. Mizuno.
And then the hot metal lineup. Well, that could have been 923 or 925. They're both technically new. 925 was launched last year, but
doesn't matter what the number they put on it. It's just going to be really good.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, that's not a surprise to anybody here.
No.
Mizuno irons.
Yeah.
You think of irons, Mizuno is one of the top brands that comes to mind. So, speaking of the players' irons, you had Blueprint S.
I'll stick with that. That golf club's phenomenal. It's a tough category, though. There's so many good.
Oh, I know.
So many good clubs. So it's weird because
there's also multiple. It's almost like there's 2 players cavity categories now. There's like a more players cavity, and there's more of a forgiving players cavity.
Yeah, exactly. And that seems to be the new emerging space now. The Blueprint S, the Cobra Tour, the T150. So there's multiple options there. Where do we put the Mizuno Forged? Does that fall into that category too, is it the 243?
Yeah, right.
Because 243 is really fast.
Yes.
Right. So there's there's so many good options out there.
Yeah.
Man, it's just a great time in the golf world.
Yeah.
So many good options.
That is, and it's almost like every big manufacturer has multiple options there too. So I mean, you typically have a muscle back blade, you've got a shallower cavity player's iron, maybe a larger cavity player's iron still. Yeah. So, but yeah, Blueprint S. I remember testing those out down at the facility. Fantastic
really
golf
good.
clubs.
Yep.
So in the wedges, SM10 was your choice. I don't know if you can't really go wrong with SM10.
No.
With Vokey wedges in general.
I'm a wedge hound. I love wedges, all the wedges. I went through 3 sets of wedges in 2023. I only went through 1 last year. I behaved myself better last year.
You did. I was actually kind of disappointed.
Nearly as much switching around as I did the year before.
We are gonna capture a what's in the bag segment with you here later today that will go out on the show.
Is that going to include things that are on the way or things that are...
Well, we'll dive into that. But my point being is, I think a couple years ago I mentioned that you always provide good content for what's in the bag stuff because we can update it throughout the year several times and it changes every time.
It's true.
Not so much that was the case last year, but but anyway, SM10 wedges were your choice. I imagine you're kind of feeling good about that one.
Oh yeah, sure, no problem.
And I'll give you the opportunity now too to wrap up 2024 to add a putter if you would like to add a putter from last year.
I mean, look, if you've turned a television on to a golf sporting event and you haven't seen a lab putter, you haven't been looking very closely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, personally, I'm not a big fan. I don't necessarily like the aesthetics of any of these.
I know you're very aesthetically oriented, as you like to say.
The torque balance, that center shafted, face forward design, just to my eye doesn't appeal. But there's a lot of people using them, and it seems to be working pretty good.
Yeah.
And number one tell is tour, right? I mean, guys on tour use things that work that are going to make them more money, right?
Yeah.
Get them better finishes. If you've got a product that never sees tour, you have to wonder whether, either they never knew about it or it didn't necessarily work.
Right. And to, add on to that, add some context. The players using lab putters are not contracted to do so.
Right, exactly.
They are going out and choosing this technology because it works.
Yes.
And you're seeing that growth of the number of players using it. So, very good call there. I got no qualms with that. So we got to get to 2025 now. We're going to do the same thing.
Okay.
And then we're probably going to do the same thing again a year from now and look back at this.
Fine.
So we're going to kind of put you under the microscope. We're going to go to drivers.
All right.
So trying to list all the options here. You got Callaway Elite. You got Ping G440. You got TaylorMade QI35. Strixon ZXI. Cobra DS Adapt. Am I missing one? Probably something I'm missing right now. Titleist GT.
Yeah.
Technically a 2024 launch, but we'll throw it in here.
Yeah.
Is there driver? Well, we'll encapsulate all the driver categories. So the low spin, whatever, draw bias. We'll encapsulate them all into one. Is there one model that sticks out where you're like, so often this is like one that comes to mind in a fitting to help a player?
It's hard. I would probably go Titleist GT.
Yeah.
Now that we've got the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4.
Yes.
I just feel like, despite all of its fingerprints and glossiness, I feel like it's probably going to be the one that's going to be the biggest accepted across the golf spectrum. Yeah.
There is I appreciate what Titleist was able to do with GT, where they did not sacrifice the classic Titleist look of a driver.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks similar, if not the same, in some respects as TSR, TSI, TS.
Yeah.
They were able to make the advancements necessary, and the tour adoption speaks for itself, both staff and otherwise. And then, like you said, there's now a whole series of GT1, GT2, GT3, GT4. Potentially we're not at liberty to say any other additions to the lineup. There might be something else coming down the line here as well. So they've got a full lineup, and it's been really, it's the fitter feedback speaks for itself. I think with Titleist GT,
and it's the club does a lot of its own selling.
Yeah.
Great ball speeds, super good smash factors, and Titleist really needs to get a nod for what they've become since TS was launched, because they weren't in a great driver space at all when 917 came out, and so what they've done now with Titleist speed and now generational technology, it's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's really impressive. Went from being a club that I actually kicked out of the facility that I worked at before I came to work with Second Swing, to being, the club that I'm saying is probably going to be the probably be the hottest thing for the year.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Titleist was not a Metalwoods brand, so to speak. I mean, they were, but they weren't. They didn't have this reputation in the woods 7-8 years ago.
No, they were getting beaten to death by TaylorMade and Callaway.
Yeah,
for speed, and that's what they came back with. They came back with, okay, this is all right, people. This is Titleist speed.
Yes,
it's
that props to them. They've made a ton of progress there, and now, like you said, I mean, they're right up there with anything on the market. So.
Right up there or superior to. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
All right, I got it in the fairway wood category now. I'll ask you the same thing. We'll kind of forego low spin. I'm just thinking any model that comes to mind when it's like someone's coming in for a long game fitting. Is there a model that comes to mind right away? It's like we're gonna try that one for sure.
Callaway Elite.
Yeah.
Zero hesitation.
Really?
Zero hesitation.
Interesting.
It's a rocket ship.
Have you been testing this like yourself? I know you do a lot of the testing yourself. You like to mess around and hit all the new gear. Yep. So is this both from your testing and from kind of just performance and fittings?
Yes.
Mm. Okay. Yes. Simple enough.
Yes. It's spectacular.
Wow.
We talked about it in our shop, and it's kind of almost like a throwback to the Epic Flash.
Which I do recall being
which was amazing. I played that fairway wood for 3 years.
Yeah.
So
is Elite going to go in the bag?
Yes.
Ooh. Okay.
I'll make that. I don't have anything in the works at the moment, but in the testing that I've done, it's flying about 6 yards further than anything else that I've hit.
Wow.
So, and it's strange because I now, after hitting it, I now look at all these other fairway woods, which I've always liked, and it feels like I have to work to get them up in the air. Whereas the Elite, you put it down and it just looks like it's going to launch high, and then it does. So, I was rather blown away.
Wow.
Because I haven't really connected that well with their last 2 generations. I did play the Paradigm Triple Diamond for a little while, but it ended up not being maybe my favorite fairway wood. And this Elite is it's something. I'm gonna sell elite? A lot of them.
It's Elite.
Spelled with an I. It is Elite. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good clarification there. I'll give you the chance. We don't have. I mean, in the previous one last year, we didn't go over hybrids or utility irons or anything like that. But I'll give you the chance here if there's a hybrid or utility iron, or we could even talk about if there might be a 7 or 9 wood separately from the Elite. That comes to mind here for this particular part of the bag.
I mean, overall hybrids, I'll probably lean on Ping.
Yeah.
They're clean. They look good. They've got up to 7. Mm-hmm. It's a hybrid that looks good, performs well, sounds good. It's a good all around hybrid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though there's you have to go hit these things because there's so many good options. There's almost no bad options.
Yeah.
So it's gotten to the point where everything's so good now that it's, I like the look of this better, or I like the sound of that better, or I like the fact that this launches a little higher, or we can nitpick things the way we maybe couldn't before. Yeah. And it's a testament to how great things like AI are for building golf clubs and pushing golf further along.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Irons. So it's, again, setting the stage here. It's February 2025. You've had probably not even a whole month in terms of fitting some of the new irons that are out there, but is there a model that's become a favorite early on in fittings or, working with golfers, or maybe even in your own testing?
So I've seen a big turnaround from Callaway. The Elite iron is actually spinning.
Yeah.
And
that was a criticism of the AI smoke models.
Yeah, that was a struggle. It really was a struggle. It took a very specific type of player for me to be able to put them into that iron. The Elite standard model, the Elite HL, Elite X, Elite Max Fast, they're a big step forward in the irons for Callaway for sure. And I'm hoping that everybody else will kind of push for that same kind of change. Because it's hard to fit people when you're looking at spin, height, and landing angle, and you're getting, mid upper 3000s RPM of spin and a 38 to 40 degree landing angle. I don't feel good about that. Right. That's not what I'm trying to put people in. Yeah, I want you come in looking for distance. I want to get you distance, but I want to get you good distance. I don't want to get you distance that, you're constantly chipping from over the green, right? Or blowing it over the green, even worse, right? I don't know about you, but most places I play, long is bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that one, Callaway definitely comes to mind on that one also.
And I think, we actually talked about it doing some filming today, but it's almost like there's a reckoning point that's being reached or about to be reached with just iron designs, iron releases out there where there's been this push for distance. There's been super strong lofts, and now it seems like that's kind of reverting back a little bit, slowly but surely. And then now I kind of even think within the designs and finding some that spin again that irons used to have.
Yeah, it's too important to not have, right? We have to have spin. We have to be able to get the ball up in the air. I mean, all right, did you watch any of the golf this last week at Pebble?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you see the new pin placement on Sunday on 17?
I did.
Okay, so much closer to the front than normal. Well, try attacking that pin if you're coming in 80 feet high with 3,000 RPM of
landing
spin,
angle or something like
right?
that.
That ball's not gonna. That green's so small.
Right.
When I was there, I thought it was a nursery green. I thought it was. I was walking out. It was the first time I'd been there. I walked down 18, in awe of everything, and I got to this green, and I was like, "What's this?" I was like, Is this nursery? Is this what they use to fill in when they have like bad spots? No, that's like 17 green because it's so small. So without control,
being able to stop
no
the ball
chance.
when it lands.
Yeah.
That type of a green, you're just gonna have to be comfortable with chipping from the rough behind the green.
Exactly.
Well, good. That's some good feedback there because I appreciate the return to kind of providing the spin and loft for players, and that's you've seen that kind of turn with some HL models that have come out, but even still, some players just weren't even quite getting what they needed out of their irons.
And honestly, you take the people that have slower swing speeds, right? What's going to get them more distance? They need the ball to stay in the air. How are we going to get that ball to stay in the air? We got to have launch. We got to have spin.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of reducing spin really only works if we're getting really high launch to go with it, because otherwise the ball falls out of the sky.
Yeah.
So, tried, worked for some, didn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
And now I think we're heading very slightly back. It's a correction, right? Mm-hmm. That's all it really is. It's just a correction. Okay, we tried this, maybe not working the way we want. So let's go back and focus on, what we can do. There's limits. We can't, somebody that swings a 7-iron 70 miles an hour is never going to fly at 160 yards.
Yeah.
Right? Those who have more club head speed, I would argue, don't necessarily need to hit a 7-iron 190 yards. If you're able to hit it 170 or 190 yards with, 115 feet of height and 6,000 RPM of spin, sweet, great.
Those numbers are
you're
more
a unicorn.
important. You're saying those numbers are more important than your carry number being high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, that all makes sense. I mean, I've seen it with my own game sometimes, where you get that mean, go out on the golf course and find a flyer lie on the rough, and you just know exactly what we're talking. You know, you get that ball might fly, it might go far, but it won't stop because there won't be any spin on it.
And I was kind of thinking of you. How far do you hit your 7-iron now?
My carry number's in the low 180s.
Oh, okay. See, you don't need to.
So the problem now, I mean, because I had to go back, I'm using, as of right now, I'm using the LB1s, designed by Larry Bobka.
Yeah.
In which the stated standard loft of the 7-iron is 36 degrees.
Oi.
So it's weak.
Oh yeah.
So now if I was playing a different iron, a stronger loft, we might be back up in the 190 conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I also know from playing with you that you hit it plenty high and with plenty of spin.
I do.
So you're a little bit of a unicorn.
Yeah.
And maybe a nice, herd of unicorns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. I think that's a compliment.
I mean, you're not. Yeah. It is. You're fortunate enough to be able to create playing dynamics that work for you, and you're, there's less of you than there are of me.
Yeah. I will say, as of and since I've played with you, we're going on a tangent here, but I've struggled with this sort of inside to out path, and the result of that is, a little bit.
Yes.
The spin is starting to get a little low at times with at least longer clubs.
Okay.
But discussion for another day. I'm going to bring up wedges because, I know SM10 was last year. We've had some new additions to the SM10 lineup in terms of grinds. Mizuno's got some new wedges, Pro, the T1, T3. We've got Cleveland RTZ, which look phenomenal. If you've done any testing with wedges, any fitting with wedges, is there a favorite new addition for 2025?
Favorite new addition's going to be the RTZ.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous. They're so clean. There's minimal badging on these things. They just look awesome. Yeah. The milling is gorgeous and deep.
Yeah.
They look like they're going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, in the initial testing that we've done, and we learned from them firsthand as well at the PGA Show demo day. Fantastic, and I'd be curious. I haven't done an actual testing myself enough with that adapt grind, but that might be something, as I am the player who I use my highest lofted wedge anywhere inside 90 to 100 yards, and that means opening, closing, shutting, anything I can to use that club. So. It seems like that's what that new adapt grind is for. So
the adapt has a little less bounce, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why. That's why I could not go with the adapt.
Yeah, that's something I would need to consider being up here. And lots of times the conditions are soft, which is not totally perfect for playing a low bounce club, low bounce grind. So, all right, we're wrapping up here. I know this segment's gone a little bit long, but we've got to talk about putters quickly.
Okay.
You did mention Lab a little bit earlier in the segment. Is there a putter or putter series that's been launched this year? I know there's been some additions to, say, the Phantom lineup from Scotty Cameron. Is there anything that's tickling your fancy, if you will? That's new here. We've also got the new Lab Oz.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one in hand yet. I mean, I've seen it on TV enough with Adam Scott.
Yeah, right.
Putter World's kind of interesting right now. It's hard to push away the idea that the zero or really low torque putters aren't going to just kind of stick around for a while, or permanently for that matter. Who knows? I kind of like the look of the new Camerons.
Yeah.
Kind of expecting them to get sued because it looks like a Versa.
Well, I mean, there is some influence from Asti Rollinson. So he was with them, and he's now on the team with Titleist or Scotty Cameron, and we've actually talked to him about in some of our content, and so he's clearly got some influence on that. And I think it's been a nice blend of the milling and traditional kind of classical look of Scotty Cameron putters with sort of blending with sort of maybe his influence of the modern mallets and the visuals that are associated with it. So
the new face looks really cool, and I'm interested to see how it feels. I don't like the firm feel of a typical Cameron putter. So if this feels firm, will be of less interest to me.
Yeah.
But if it's soft, and I'm switching to Pro V1X this year, so my ball is going to get a little firmer than it's been in the past.
So you need that soft feel with the putter.
We'll see what how that changes for putting.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's been a crazy a few weeks here now of seeing the new stuff, trying the new stuff.
Yep.
You've been fitting golfers into the new products, and again, we are going to revisit your takes, if you quote unquote takes here later on. But there you have it from Mr. Kevin Kraft. His initial impressions on his favorite clubs of 2025 so far by category.
It's going to be a good year.
It is. Kevin, thank you for joining. This was a lot of fun.
Anytime. This is fun.